And hello, students. Welcome back. This is your favorite teacher, Mr. Jacobson. I'm excited to be with you today. Today we're going to finish up the chapter 1 here with the Byzantine Empire. So our last webcast we finished with the fall of Rome, where Rome officially falls to the Ostrogoths and the Roman Empire is officially no more. However, prior to that, there was a great separation between the Western Roman Empire and the Eastern Roman Empire. The Western Roman Empire gets conquered, but the Eastern Roman Empire, which becomes the Byzantine Empire, that is going to go very strong for probably about another 1,000 years almost. So they're going to have a very strong entry into the world stage here. The Byzantine Empire, their capital is at Constantinople. So let's begin. So here we go. So here's a little map here. Here's the Holy Land, or Palestine, or Israel, whatever you want to call it. Today it's called Israel. Here's the Mediterranean Sea, and here's Asia Minor, which we call Turkey today. And over here, this is called Constantinople. Modern day, meaning today, it's known as Istanbul, which is right here. And it's right at the border of Asia and Europe. Asia's all this, Europe's all over here. Here's the Black Sea, here's the Aegean Sea, and it was just a very prime spot for trade, for defense, for everything. So we're going to go into that. So why on earth did Constantine change the capital from Rome to what's now called Constantinople? So here is kind of a painting someone created here back in the day to kind of give you an idea of Constantinople. It's on a peninsula, and that's very important for you to understand. You can see here, I want you to just think about what are some of the natural defenses that they have. So if you could just kind of ponder that a little bit, ask yourself, how is this advantageous for an empire or a group of people who live in Constantinople? How does their geography protect them? And while you're thinking about that, I'm going to continue. So, why did Constantinople flourish? It lays on the waterways between the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea. So we have the Black Sea here, the Aegean Sea. These are major trade seas, and they can go through each other. So lots of ships are going in between these two seas. And what's on what do they have to pass? Constantinople. City was built on a peninsula. The sea protected it from three sides. On the other side was a huge wall protecting the city. Constantinople also sat at the crossroads of trade routes between Europe and Asia. Trade between the city became extremely wealthy. So, we're going to go back to that original picture here. So, we have one, two, three sides of the city is surrounded by water. This is a great natural barrier, because if people wanted to try to attack the city, then they have to get ships and boats and all that, and that costs a lot of money. If you have 1,000, well, let's say you have 10,000 men, you're going to try and siege Constantinople from the from this side here, from the west side. Okay, you have 10,000 men. You have to find ships that will transfer 10,000 men. And I'd say the minimum would be probably about, maybe you'd have to have about 400, 500 ships to do 10,000 men. I'm just guessing here. And so it's a big problem. Plus, if people are in ships and they get and there's a storm or anything while you're trying to get to the place where you're trying to siege, and a storm happens, you could easily get wiped out, and you could lose a lot of men. If one ship goes down, you might just lost a few hundred there. So it's really hard to siege a country from the water. It can be done, but it's very difficult. Second, look at this beautiful wall right across. So they have barrier, 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 all natural, and then a man-made wall that protects it from the north. Furthermore, if you look at the very top, it also has another natural barrier. What's that? Can you see that back there? Yep, those are hills and mountains, which act as another barrier. So it's a hard city to siege and to be successful. Here's another uh, um, um, artist's interpretation of what it looked like from the top. So here we have the peninsula again. Here's one, two, three waterways. You can't really see the wall on this side, but you can look over here. You can see that's a heavily, very dense city. And here's the hippodrome, which would be right here, which we'll talk about. So Constantinople. Now these buildings were built in Roman style. Everything started in Romanesque style in Constantinople. Had an oval area called the hippodrome. Many cultures blended together to form Byzantine culture. Roman culture was replaced by Greek culture. So I want to take some time. Originally, it was a very Romanesque city because it was part of the Roman Empire. But after Rome was losing and waning in popularity and culture, and when you're not the big dog anymore, then people don't really look at your culture as superior. So what did people start doing? They started reverting back to Greek culture since um, Constantinople, which before that was Byzantium, and before that was Megara or Megara. And if you remember anything about Greece, there was a great city that the Greeks owned, and it was called Megara, and that was Constantinople a long time ago. So it used to be a very Greek city to begin with. But when Rome finally fails, declines, and goes away, then Greek culture is going to become very prominent once again in this region, especially Constantinople. Plus, Constantinople has so many people trading back and forth from Egypt, from Palestine, from all over the world, and so Constantinople is going to create like their own kind of culture, and they're going to call it the Byzantium or Byzantine culture. It's going to have its own unique culture, which is a fusion and a bringing together and a mixture of all the cultures around the area, which will create its own unique culture. So here's the hippodrome. Hippodrome is very much like a coliseum, but it's oval shaped and it's way bigger. It would make a coliseum, it would put a coliseum to shame. And they did very similar things. You know, they people who were on bread in circuses, like in the Roman times, were being supported by the government. They'd feed them bread, and then they'd send them to the hippodrome so they could have their entertainment. So the people would be entertained and probably not likely to revolt. So later we have an emperor in Byzantium called Justinian. Justinian became a strong emperor in AD 565. He married Theodora, although she was from the poor class. So Justinian was upper class. He was said to be royalty, and and Theodora was not. However, they fell in love, and love won out in that way, and he married her. And apparently, he had a strong love for her. And the stories are kind of pretty impressive between the two and the kind of relationship they had. Angry taxpayers threatened to overthrow Justinian. His advisors told him to run away. Theodora said, "You stay and fight." He fought, and he won. So he obviously respects Theodora's opinion much more than even his advisors at one point in his life. She began in the lower class. She worked as an actress and started dating Justinian. The law was changed so Justinian could marry her, because the law said an upper class or a royalty of something can't marry a lower class, poor peasant person. So the law was specifically changed by that, by Justinian's, I think it was his uncle or dad, I think his uncle, but I'm not sure. It was whoever was the ruler before him in that area, he convinced them, and they did. So she persuaded Justinian to grant more rights to women. Justinian's accomplishments. He ordered his general Belisarius to reunite the Roman Empire. He conquered most of Italy and northern Africa, but did it too quickly. After his death, the land was retaken and lost. So Justinian, he had this vision to reconquer all of the Roman Empire because it was fragmented, and he came pretty close, at least to conquer all of Italy again and to get back to Rome, but it was not to be. So here's a picture. Here we see that here's the Byzantine Empire, and here's the kingdom of the Ostrogoths, who conquered and felled the Roman Empire. And so he pushes all the way into Italy, but it just wasn't going to stay. So the Justinian's very famous for his law code. So empire's laws were too difficult to understand. Justinian simplified the laws for all people to understand. This has had a huge influence on a lot of countries in Europe were Justinian's law codes, and so even today people will talk about them. Law codes are a really interesting thing. They kept getting more specific and more giving more rights to the peasants, people who probably get the least amount of rights because they don't have any power or popularity or anything. But Justinian focused more on the peasants, which gave him good eyes in the sight of the peasants. So Christianity is divided. We have the Roman Catholic Church today, and then we also have the Greek Orthodox Church. So that is today. This is the Vatican of the Catholic Church, and this is the Hagia Sophia of the Greek Orthodox Church. These are two. They're both. They both come from the same place pretty much, but they broke off, and they both are around today. So here's here's Pope Francis, who is the ruler of the Roman Catholic Church, and here's Bartholomew the First, who is the ruler of the Greek Orthodox Church. They're both Christian. They even at one time were both together and united in one church, but they broke off once the empire broke off as well. So the Byzantines believed the emperor represented Jesus. So at that point, they would look at like Justinian and think he represented Jesus. Okay, so the emperor has like a deified, godlike quality to them. The emperor chose the Patriarch of Constantinople, the leader of the church. This allowed the emperor to control both the government and the church. So in Constantinople, government and church were controlled all together. Religious arguments. A major debate began. Most churches in the Byzantine Empire had icons painted on their walls. Iconoclasts were people against icons and believed that it violated God's commandments. Leo III ordered all icons removed from the churches. Most Byzantines and Romans did not agree with Leo III. Eventually, icons were accepted as a part of worship once again. So if you look here, you can see that they literally just ripped off whatever figure they had in the mosaic here as part of iconoclasm. Here's some other examples of iconoclasm. You see no heads here. You see that that's all been scratched out here. Conflicts between church. So the Byzantines did not accept the Pope's authority in Rome. They did not help each other when others were tried to invade them. So the two churches, the Greek Orthodox Church, which is now today, and the Catholic churches today, their old counterparts back in this time, they didn't like each other. The Pope named Charlemagne the Roman Emperor. This angered the Byzantines because they believed that their emperor was the only true one. The Pope and the Patriarch of Constantinople both excommunicated each other. The split became the Roman Catholic Church and the Greek Orthodox Church, and it has lasted to this day. Here's the funny thing. You know how you normally have like a kick me sign? Well, here they're at like preschool or whatever. and some religious school, and instead of kick me, it says excommunicate me. Excommunicating is when you kick somebody out of a church. So here's the iconoclasm overview. I want you to look at that and pay attention to all the little details. If you can see here, they're burning the icons. And then here's another example of burning icons. They've scratched out their faces so you can't see them. Constantinople is the center of trade. Now, every nation was trading with Constantinople, including China. China guarded the secret for making silk from other nations. By AD 550, silk was being produced in Constantinople, and it brought great wealth to the Byzantine Empire. So here is a piece of bamboo that a trader stuck a bunch of silkworms inside and then hid them so they could try to sneak it out of China. Once they snuck these silkworms out of China and the Byzantine Empire, they were able to make silk themselves, and they didn't need to trade with the Chinese for silk anymore. So here's the beautiful silks that you see even today, just gorgeous quality. Byzantine art. Justinian's greatest built structure was the Hagia Sophia, or the Holy Wisdom. It became the religious center of the Byzantine Empire. Inside, they had mosaics, pictures made from many bits of colored glass or stone. So here's another piece of mosaic here. As you can see, it's a bunch of pieces of stone or glass, and they make a beautiful image, as you see on the right there. And then women education. Empress Theodora allowed women to be educated and to be involved in politics. Many royal women served as regents. Regents would be like a governor of some kind, somebody who assisted. And the Byzantines copied many writings from the ancient Greeks and Romans. If they did not do this, many ancient writings would have been lost forever. And that's pretty much it. That ends the Byzantine Empire. So we covered the Roman Empire up into its fall, and we covered up into the almost to the end of the Byzantine Empire. We will talk a little bit more at the end of the Byzantine Empire when the Nation of Islam is on the rise, and they ultimately put an end to the Byzantine Empire. Until then, go ahead and write your one-page summary, and I look forward to talking about this with you at the first of the week. Thanks. Bye-bye.